Hi, I'm Paul Seal from codeshare.co.uk. Welcome to episode 9 of my Umbraco series, how to build an Umbraco website. I'm using Umbraco version 7.6.5. If this is the first one you're watching, you might want to go back to the beginning. I'm implementing a template that I've found on a site called Pixelarity. If you want to go to the template, it's codeshare.co.uk/reflex, and that will take you to the exact one using my referral code. And this site, at the moment, we are now moving on to the news section. Okay, so in this episode we're going to create a news list document type, and then under that we're going to create a news article controls composition document type and a news article document type. So basically a news article with its separated controls, and then a partial view to display the latest articles, and we'll use the above partial view on the home page and on the news listing page, and obviously we'll create some dummy news content items as well. So let's get started then. So this is the website here, so I'm going to go to Umbraco. So log into Umbraco, and I'm going to go to settings, document types, compositions. So the news article list doesn't necessarily have to have any compositions, so I don't think I need to create that. So I'm going to create a new document type without a template, and I'm going to call this news list. I'm going to choose an icon for it. I'm not sure what color I've gone for on this website, I can't remember now, but I'm just going to do I'm just going to look for list and a news. I won't add a tab or anything like that. I'm just going to hit save. Now what I want to do is just go back to, right, so I've gone with red on that, so I'm just going to go to the news list again and change the color of this logo to be red, and just search for list again and find that. So that solves that. Also, what I failed to mention on the introduction was the usage of template. So we're going to need a new template for this news list page. So it doesn't exist on the free template that I got. So I'm just going to create one here. News list. So I'm just going to hit save. And all that's going to have is it's just going to be the same as a normal page, but it'll just have that news list on there as well, and maybe the title, obviously. So it'll be like a content page. So we could possibly use everything that's on the content page on this news list page. So I'm just copying and pasting that. So we can allow for main content, and then where this has got an image list, I'm going to replace that with whatever the news list will be. So actually we can see that because we already have a hard-coded version of that partial. So on here it's called Spotlight. So if we go to Home, and where it's referencing that, we can just do that on here. So after that let's just see what that looks like first of all. Well, we will when we create a content item which is of that type. So let's go back to document types, news list, associate the template that we just created with it. So click on templates, choose a template for the default. I chose news list, and then click on save. So then we also need to allow that to be created under home. So we go to home in document types, permissions, and then add child, and we choose news list, and then click on save. Then we click on content, click on home, the three dots next to the home, news list, and then we're just going to say news. Now in the title of this episode it could be, I said it was news or blog. It doesn't really matter, it's up to you how you want to do this. So we've got a news item created. Let's have a look at the link to see what that looks like. So we might get an error because it's not got all the header things above, but in fact it's rendered it fine. So yeah, this is our simple news page, and then this is just the introduction to the news. So in fact, we don't need the content part of this. Quite happy with that. So let's go back to the news template. We'll reload this in here. That will show us the file that was created from the website. I'll include that in the project. And then what I will do is close it and reopen it, and that will give us all of the highlighting and everything like that, because now it's a file that's included when I've opened it. So we've got page title, and so let's remove this main image. We don't need the main image. We don't need main content. So now we'll just refresh the page again and see how that looks. And probably we can remove this on this horizontal rule. We don't need that either. So just got to see where that horizontal rule is coming from. It might come from the title. If it is, I'm not too concerned about having it, but there might be one in the markup that I just didn't notice. Is it before? I'm not sure. So I'm not too concerned about that at this stage. It's not a major problem. So we've got our news page. So now let's create a news article document type with the compositions for a news article. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to create a template for the news article. So create a new template, news article. It's going to basically be the same as a content template. So I'm just going to copy that, copy and paste it over that. So the only reason I've created it, really, I might want to put the date of the article on there. I might want to change it at a later stage to differentiate it from a content item. So the fact that in the setup of the document types and templates that I have separated them out, even though they are using the same things, that'll be a benefit to me later on. So that's good. So if I go into document types, create article controls, I'll do news article controls. And really the main thing on this that's different is probably just I'll just need an article date. But I don't need, so this is going to be a composition type. So this won't need an icon, it won't need a template. This is just purely for the controls that we're going to use for inheritance, or for composition actually, not inheritance. So this will be, it should just be in the content. It should be a content tab, add the property, and I'm going to say article date. And I always like to try and do an article date. Some people like to use a created date or an updated date or something like that, or a published date, but I prefer to actually have a date that you specify in the CMS rather than one that is baked in, because you might want to go different to that and you can't change it. So that's why I like to specify an article date. So choose or enter a date for this article. And I'm going to make it mandatory, and I'm going to make it a date picker. Now I could do a date picker or a date time picker. Now the only reason I would do one over the other, so the date time picker, if I had two articles on the same day that went out and I wanted one to show before the other, if I did a date time picker I could do that. If I didn't do that, it'd be harder to do with just a date picker because they'd both be midnight on that day. So with that in mind, am I bothered? I'll do a date picker because I don't think on this particular site that they will have more than one article going out on the same day, and if they did, I don't think they'll be that bothered. Oh, so choose that. Oh, close that. Sorry, I didn't do reuse, so I need to just choose date picker from the reuse tab, tick that the field is mandatory and submit, and then save. So now I need to create myself a document type without a template called news article. I need to associate the template that we just created, news article there, and I want to look for an icon that's suitable, change the colour to red, and I'm going to go with that one. So this is going to be my news article template, and I want to use composition to pick the news article controls there. And I'm going to go into the compositions and just make the article. I'm going to push the article date lower down if I can. There was an issue before where that didn't seem to work on the reorder thing, but I'll just give it a higher ID, just so it goes further down. So we'll use so say on the page content, because what I want to do now is go back to news article. I need news article to have the same compositions as what a content has. So that has these ones here. So 1, 2, skip 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the last one. So I'll do the same. So news article, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and the last one. So my news article has all the same things as a content item, plus the extra article date as well. And that looks like it's going to be at the bottom there, which is good. So now if we go to the news list document type, we want to allow permissions for it to have underneath it a news article, and click on save. And I also want to allow the list view as well, enable list view on this news list, so that within the editor I can see, when I'm on here, I can create items underneath it like this. So news item 1. So again, it works exactly like a content item. It's got an article date here that I do need to pick. So I'm going to pick last week. Usually when you're doing this, you'd pick the day that you're actually creating it on. Click on save and publish. And now I have an item. I could probably put some content in there. Maybe I want to pick an image. So I'll select some media. Submit that, save and publish. Right. So if I go to the page and have a look what it looks like, we should have, we've got the news item here, we've got the image and the content. So what else we can do is probably just put the date in just above the content. So I might have the date left aligned, maybe bold, in a P tag. So where we've got let's just go to Solution Explorer, reload again, loads in the newly created template, include that in the project, open it up, and then where we've got main content, I might just do above that a P with a strong, and then do at umbraco.field. And then, we've got, this is good, so I can actually format as date as well. So the field I want it to bring through is the article date, and there is a boolean for me to use there. So I'm going to say format as date true. Right, so fingers crossed that will show up. If we go to the front end for that news item, there we go. So we've got the content, and maybe you don't want an image, and that's fine. You can take that off, save and publish, and then refresh the page. You don't have to have an image. So that's just showing you a news article. Very simple, this is just simple ideas. So now we've got the news article on this site, and we have the news listing page as well. So the main point of this is to get from the news for the news listing page. The main point of it is to display these automatically on a partial view. Now what I have realised is actually what we could do on the news listing page, we could have a composition for that with some controls that have this like subtitle and description here, and then a bit of an extra description and then details there. Just trying to decide if that's worth it. What I might do, instead of having these, I might have this hard-coded in as just latest news. So let me do that. So I'll go into the spotlight. I don't think we need that extra P tag there. And I'm just going to change this to news. And then at the bottom it's got an extra P tag. I don't even think that's relevant. And I might just say view all news. Now I only want this one to show if it's the home page that it's on. And what I can do for that is to say bool is home page. And I can just do something like Umbraco assigned content item dot URL equals. So if the URL is just slash, then it's the home page. I mean, that might not be the best way of deciding it, but that will definitely do the trick here. And then I can just put that in here, so I can just say if is the home page, then show this extra thing to say view all news. And that will just go to news, and I don't really need to configure that either. I could, if I wanted to, could have a property on the home page that it pulls through, and I've shown you how to do that. But we don't really have to do that. So now the next thing we just need to do is to loop through the news articles, is to get the latest news articles. So I'm going to get them by the article date. I'm going to get the top 3. So when it is in the context of the home page, it will be the top 3. When it's in the context of anywhere else, well, on the news template, it will be all of them. And on this one, I'm not going to implement paging. I don't think we need to go over the top. This is a simple site. It's probably not going to have much paging. And you're just going down anyway. So you've got the latest at the top and you're just going down. So what we can do is we can. Now I'm wondering whether we should create a model for this, or whether we can just do it as we've done with the other things on this, just getting the field from that content item. It might be good just to show you how I would do it using a model. So I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to add a controller. I don't think I've got any controllers on this one. Oh, I have. I've got a contact controller. So I'm going to do a news controller. Let's just save this. So add a class. I always do a class because otherwise it adds all its MVC scaffolding, and I'm not really bothered about that. Add news controller.cs, and I want to use umbraco.amvc, umbraco.web.mvc, and use system.web.mvc. Then I can inherit this controller class from surface controller. Make sure you always do that if you're doing an Umbraco surface controller. Then I want to do public action result render. So on the home one, I want to render the latest news, and on the other one I want to render news. I'll just say render latest news. Actually, I'll just call it, I'll use the same for both, but I'll just have an integer to say how many I want to render. Actually, I'll have the integer to say if it's homepage or not. A bool to say is it homepage, and an integer to say show how many. Or items to show. So I can have that as a nullable int. Okay, no, it's probably safer just to have, and I'll just if it's 0, then it just means that you don't need to set it, and if it's more than 0, then just set it. That's fine. I'll just leave it as that. So public, well, as we did on the contact one, we would have done this get view path, so I'm going to do that as well. So I'm going to get the view path, and where we return a partial view, I'm going to do that. And the name of this is going to be Spotlight. I'll just keep it the same. So that's the partial view we're returning. And the model is going to be a list of news article. So I need to create a model. So I'm going to create a model class, news article.cs, public news article. On this news article, we want to have some properties. So we have a title, public string title, get or set. We also have a intro, public string intro, get and set. We need a link, but that will just be the URL of it, but I can put that in, public string URL, get set, and an image URL, public string image URL. So it probably would work better if there was an image on this as well. That's fine. So that's it. That's all these news articles need. So we can now probably, so the model is just going to be a list of these news articles. But what I like to do when I create this is maybe do another model. So do an add class news list model.cs. So what this is going to be is it's going to be a public list news article, and that can be called items. Try to make these ones quite generic in the name of the properties. Then I'll do a public bool has items, and just make that go to so items is not null, and items.count is greater than 0. Then we're saying it's got items, and public int item count equals goes to has items first of all. So if it has items, then items.count, otherwise 0. So this is going to be the model that we're going to use in the partial view. So where we've got Spotlight there, we're going to get that to use news list model, and we want that this page to be a using ell.web.models. That lights up there. So now we can use that class as the model that we need to pass into here. So news controller. So now we can say in here if we make it use it as well. So using ell.web.models. And we can say news list model. Model equals new list model. Now we could send this off to a separate helper class to get these content items, but really it's not that big a deal. I mean, all we've got to do is get the news list page, and then we've got to just get the children ordered by article date. So what I'll do is I'll do I publish content. So I'll get the homepage first. Now there are other ways of doing this. You could do a search, you could do all sorts. Again, this is a small site, probably not going to have like loads of traffic, like thousands of hits a day or anything. So this should be sufficient for this. So I'm going to do umbraco.core.models. So what I'm going to say is I publish content home page equals Umbraco. Oh no, it will be model.content. What am I doing? Sorry, model current page dot ancestor or self. What is it? Oh, I need to make sure I've got Umbraco web here. This will give me the extension methods that I need. So now I can say ancestor or self home, and it's as simple as that. That will get me the home page. Then I can just do I publish content news list equals homepage dot children dot where x goes to x dot doc type alias equals, and then I'll just say news list. I think that's how it was. So we can just double check that. So go to settings, news list, and there, that's the alias that we're looking for. And it is news list, so that's good. So where news list dot first or default. So that's got us a news list, and then all we're going to do then is we're going to return back the children. And actually, news list model, let's just make sure that this has got a bool, so public bool is homepage, just so it's aware of where it is. Because at the time when all this is done, when the model is set, we can do it there rather than doing it on the partial view. So we've got that is homepage, that's good. So we're passing in his homepage, so we may as well set that in here. So we'll do model.isHomepage equals isHomepage. We'll do model.items equals news list dot take. Right, so actually we'll say if news list is not equal to null, or even if it is, we can set it to null, that's fine. What we really want to say is if items to show is greater than 0, then model dot items equals news list dot take. So what? Oh, that's a news listing page. Sorry. We need news items as well. So we'll do a list of iPublish content. News items equals news list dot children dot where x goes to x dot doc type alias equals news article. Dot order by descending, and then I know it probably doesn't matter, but I'm going to do y dot get property value as a date and time. Article date. So I'm getting it to do all of that and then to list. So that's the news items, and I'm going to say I want the news list to be news items. I want the items to model.items to be news items dot take, and then items to show. So that's a list of news article. Oh, and then the only thing is that it's not mapped the properties on each of those yet. So there is something I can do for that. So I just need to what's the best way to do that? Oh, I'll just do I'll do an extension method. Right, so what I'm going to do is another one. So I'm just going to do a folder called extensions, and I'll do a class inside this called iPublished content extensions.cs. And what I'm going to do with this, it's going to be a static class. I'm going to have a method on this, so public static, and it's going to return back a news model, so I need to allow it to use it using what is this? So this is ell.web.models. It's going to return back a news article, and I'm going to call it toNewsArticle model. And it's going to be an extension method, meaning that it's going to be added on the end of iPublish content as a method it can run. So I will do using umbraco.core.models to allow me to reference iPublish content. So I do this iPublish content, and then we can go like this. So news article model equals new news article, actually equals null first of all, and then return model. So I'll say if, oh, and I just need to actually set the variable name content item. So if content item dot document type alias equals news article for a start, then we'll go into this. Otherwise, it's going to return back a null object because it doesn't map to it. So let's set some of these properties. So what properties do we have on the news article? We've got a title. So content item dot title model dot title equals content item dot get property value. Now we need to use umbraco.web again because it's got some nice extension methods that we can use. So that will light up some other ones on here. So get property value, string. So I think I don't need to do this. I can just do content item.name for this. But if we just have a look in here, and we just go in, what did we do for titles? Did we do a title that we can use? Right, yeah, so we want that to be page title, if not name. So here we go, we can say content item dot has value page title. If it does, content item dot get property value string page title, otherwise content item dot name. That's the first one. What's the next property we need to map? Intro. Now what I'm going to get it to do is get this from the metadata that we haven't added actually. Yeah, we've not added any SEO stuff yet, so we'll have to add this later, but I'm just going to do it in a similar way to this. And I'll just do meta description. So we're going to add a field later called meta description, and it's going to pull through from there. And if it's not got one, I'm just going to set it to be null. And that's going to be the intro. So that meta description is what we use for search engine optimization. So on Google, that's what shows up on Google, and that's what's going to show up on our listing page. So we will add all the meta descriptions and things like that on another episode. So for the moment, that's going to be null. What else have we got? Actually, I'm just going to put not set up yet. Will do later. And the other things on the model, URL, so that's easy, model.url equals content item.url. And also we've got another one, which is the image URL. So if we have a look on how it's getting that already in the intro. And we can just replace assign content item with content item. And then we can just reply back with a return model.image URL equals main image URL. And this whole this I would do on the view side of things, not on the thing, just in case you want to change the crop sizes and what have you. Right. And then, so going back to where we were on the news controller, what we can do is we can say model.items. Yeah, let's just say if news items is not null and news items count is greater than 0 and there are some items to show, we'll worry about that items to show in a minute. I'll just do a take on that after. We'll say news items dot select, and then we'll do a conversion here. X dot to. So in order to be able to use this, we need to have the using statement for ELL.web extensions. Then we can say to news article model and then pass in the variable and then to list. So now on each of those it's going to map it to the hard-coded model and return it back into the list. And then all we'll do afterwards is just say if, well, we can just say rather than setting this items here, I'm going to create a list of news articles. Call it news articles equals new list of news article. Actually equals null. And then in here, news articles equals new list. It actually, news articles equals that. So then in here we can just say model.items equals, and then this is where we can consult the items to show. So if items to show is greater than 0, then we'll do news articles dot take items to show. Otherwise, news articles. So that will just reduce the amount. So why is it complaining? So can't convert IEnumerable. Oh, is the take doing an IEnumerable? Right, maybe we just need to do dot to list again. So that's it. So now we've got our news articles, and really we could just say render news, or even, yeah, render news. So when we are on our home page, instead of calling Spotlight like that, we can do at, and then with this, then we do HTML.render action, and then we say render news, and the controller name is news. Put that at the end, and inside this we also want to say is homepage. So is homepage true, and we want to say, actually I think that needs to be an equals. Is homepage is true, and the number to show, is it items to show, equals 3. And on the news template, we want to, so on the news list, we want to call this as well in place of that, and we want to say false for is homepage, and we want to say 0 or 99 or whatever, but for now we can just say 0. So then the final piece of the puzzle is on the Spotlight template, partial view. So now it's paying attention to this. We can remove is homepage and we can replace it with if model.isHomepage. capital M. So if it is actually the home page, then do that. And then we're just going to loop through and rendering these. So news article. Oh right, so we need to make sure we're using the news thing. So this will be ell.web. Oh, we've already got that, so that's fine. So for each news article, I'll just call it article in model.items. Yeah, and we can also do a big if model.hasItems as well. And that's why I added this on. So that if it's not got anything, well, let's not even render anything. So that's good. That just keeps it neat. But if it has got something, right, let's render it. So I can just have a look at what the differences are here. And I don't think there are any differences between these in terms of classes and things like that. So I'm going to delete those ones. So they're the duplicates. And all I need to do is I just need to set the image path here. So this will be at article.image URL. This is the title. Oh, and I need to, so this will be at article.title. This is at article.intro. This is, leave that as details, and this can be at article.url. So it's as simple as that now. Now that I mapped it to a model, a plain class object, I can loop through those and render those. So, shall we see if we've got any errors? Let's give that a build. So I did a hell of a lot of code there without doing any builds or runs or anything like that. So fingers crossed it's worked, but it probably won't work first time, as I usually say. So on news itself, let's see if it's actually going to render any news. New. No physical template found was for template render news. The news controller I've got it in the wrong bit. I just need to change that to be content, because that's looking in the wrong folder there. So that's not a good start. Still no physical template found. So return partial view, spotlight. Okay, I'll have to debug them, won't I? So I've obviously done something wrong here. So what was mine? Let's just check that I've done the basics right. So controller. It's called news controller, so therefore I can just shorten it to news in there. This render news method, I can shorten it there, and that is news. Oh, sorry about that. Silly me. Try again. Here we go. So we moved on. Right, so object not set to instance of an object. Object reference. Okay, so that's getting better. So this is back to the extensions, so I'm obviously doing something wrong. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to have to come back for a part 2 of this episode, because obviously I couldn't fit it all in within one lunch break. So yeah, I'll come back to this one on the next episode and we'll finish this off. Promise I won't do any more until the next episode. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, please click on like, subscribe to my channel. Feel free to leave any comments, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.